Okay, tes, tes, tes. Hi, good morning, Dr. Puspa Peruma. Can you hear me? Okay, yeah, thank you.
Hello, good morning. I see already a slide on the screen. Or do I have to show it? Yeah, good morning. Slides. Thank you very much for the feedback. All right, thank you very much. And if and when my slides are already up, can I be able to control it? All right, thank you very much.
Polytechnic Metro Tasik Glugor is a polytechnic established by the Ministry of Higher Education Malaysia, and its role is to produce professional TVET graduates to support the country's development in terms of economy and technological progress, as well as to generate skilled human capital. PMTG offers 2 diploma programs, namely Diploma in Digital Technology and Diploma in Video and Film Studies.
Hello everyone. As the head of International Unit in Polytechnic Metro Tasik Glugor, Penang, Malaysia, it gives me great pleasure to grace all of your presence to our international webinar on the importance of professional development for educators. This webinar is organized and conducted with the hope that the audience will gain insight and information that will improve the quality of their community's education system. As a result, I'm hopeful that our webinar will assist in the development of educators who will never cease to learn. Thank you and enjoy the webinar.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning ladies and gentlemen. Hello and welcome to today's webinar focusing on the importance of professional development for educators. I am Ariza, Head of Internationalization Unit, Polytechnic Sultan Idris Shah. Thank you for being with us, and I hope this webinar helps us to be more motivated in the teaching profession and guides us to keep up with the changing trends in education. Until then, may you enjoy the webinar. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and good morning to the respectable technologist Khairul Anwar bin Ishaq, the Director of Polytechnic Metro Tasik Glugor, Penang, the respectable technologist Zulkarnain bin Shahadan, the Director of Polytechnic Sultan Idris Shah, Selangor, Head of Departments, fellow academicians, and all the attendees here in StreamYard. Welcome to our international webinar on the importance of professional development for educators. This webinar is jointly organized by Polytechnic Metro Tasik Glugor, Penang, and Polytechnic Sultan Idris Shah, Selangor, Malaysia. Before we proceed, please remember to submit your attendance. Feel free to choose either the link provided in the comment section or the QR code that has appeared on the screen. The purpose of this link or QR code is for generating your e-certificate to this international webinar, so it is very important for you. Thank you in advance for your time and support by staying with us throughout the session today. We will truly appreciate it. Without further ado, I would like to invite the respectable technologist Zulkarnain bin Shahadan, the Director of Polytechnic Sultan Idris Shah, as our joint coordinator of the webinar to deliver his opening speech. Welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to everyone. Yang berusaha Technologist Khairul Anwar bin Ishaq, the Director of Polytechnic Metro Tasik Glugor, the management team of Polytechnic Metro Tasik Glugor and Polytechnic Sultan Idris Shah, the distinguished speakers, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, it is a pleasurable moment to extend my warm wishes on behalf of Polytechnic Sultan Idris Shah. I would also like to convey my appreciation to Polytechnic Metro Tasik Glugor for this opportunity on working together for this webinar, the importance of professional development for educators. In 2020, we experienced challenges in the way we normally communicated and educated. The pandemic made educators tackle inequities and redouble their ongoing efforts to meet not only the academic but also the physical and social emotional needs of our students. Now, as we are at the endemic stage of COVID-19, we still need to strengthen our capability to address the inequities in the system that existed even before the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that by participating in this webinar, we are in the right place and at the right time. Together, let us accelerate the exchange of ideas and scaling up of good practices for educators' professional development. I'm confident that you will find new ideas, motivation, fresh energy, and partnership to sustain your efforts in support of excellent student outcome. I wish you all a very successful webinar. Thank you.
Thank you, Technology Zulkarnain bin Shahadan, for the speech. Next, it gives me great pleasure to invite the respectable technologist Khairul Anwar bin Ishaq, the Director of Polytechnic Metro Tasik Gelugor, to grace our webinar with his officiating speech.
Thank you, Dr. Mazda. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to take this occasion to convey all heartfelt greetings to all of you. I would like to thank all the participants for joining, and I must say I appreciate your interest in exploring opportunities by joining our webinar session today. On behalf of Polytechnic Metro Tasik Gelugor, warm welcome to all of you. I will be having an interesting topics discussion today by two speakers. Allow me to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Andrew Macalma from St. Louis University, Philippines, and Dr. Matthews Yumarnarto from Universitas Catholic Widya Mandala, Surabaya, Indonesia. The topic of discussion for today is about professional development among educators. Teachers' professional development is a type of continuing education effort for educators. It is one way for educators to improve their skill and in turn boost student outcomes. Professional development enable educators to turn themselves into stronger and more fitting individuals by allowing them to produce useful and personalized lessons for the students today. Research has shown that student achievement will increase as a result for professional development for educators. Knowledge and experience alone are not enough to ensure optimal learning for students. By discovering new teaching strategies through professional developments, educators can go back to the classroom and make changes to the teaching style and curricula to better suit the students' needs. Professional development is the key to introduce educators to new delivery techniques, new approach, and make them effective educators. Professional development will allow educators to expand the knowledge in various areas of the subject. The more of the professional development an educator undergoes, the more he or she develops knowledge and insight into the industry. Therefore, it is an interesting topic indeed. So I hope all of you will greatly benefit from the discussions that will be carried out in today's webinar session. I believe the event will be in success and achieve its goal. Thank you, the works and effort put in by PMTG's International Unit in organizing such a beneficial event. On the other hand, I would also like to thank Polytechnic Sultan Idris Shah for collaborating with us and in the worthwhile event. Dear speakers and participants, I am not going to be taking much of your time, since we have our speakers waiting to present the interesting topics. So, without any further ado, let's start our event and allow me to officiate the webinar. All the best to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Technologies Cairo Anwar Ishak, for officiating the webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, our theme today is the importance of professional development for educators. My name is Majda Mahamud, and I am the head of Research, Innovation and Commercialization Unit at PMTG. And I will be serving you as your moderator today. Indeed, we are honored to be able to secure this sharing session with two distinguished panels. Professor Andrew S. Makalma and Dr. Mateus Yumarnamto, who are here all the way from the Philippines and Indonesia. Let's give them a big round of applause for their commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, as the panelists take turn to speak, we would like to welcome the audience to post your questions in the chatting section. The questions will be shortlisted by our committee and will be answered by the panels at the end of the sessions so that each session could progress smoothly without interruptions. If possible, please state your question first and then give us 1 or 2 sentences to help us understand the context. I repeat, state your question first and then give us 1 or 2 sentences to help us understand the context. If you would like a specific panelist to answer the question, please mention the panelist's name, then the question, followed by the context. With that, please allow me to properly introduce our first esteemed panelist in brief. The first panelist is the Honorable Professor Andrew S. Makalma from St. Louis University, Philippines. He was the Dean for the Office of Student Affairs and is currently the university's registrar since the year 2020. His strength lies in so many credentials and awards as a registered psychologist since 2013. Professor Andrews, welcome to the webinar. Welcome to the webinar, Professor Andrews.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much.
We are very pleased to have you here with us today.
It's also my honor to have been invited, of course, in this international webinar for our educators.
Yes, thank you, Prof. Prof, the floor is yours to share with us your insights and experience on the importance of professional development for educators. All right.
Thank you very much. May I also be allowed to share my screen?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So, good morning, everyone. Of course, prior to my talk, I have been rehearsing as to how to greet you, no, but definitely I haven't yet mastered that, so therefore I'll try my very best later on. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you to the administration of Polytechnic Metro Tasek de Lugar for inviting me to be actually one of your speakers here. It is indeed my honor to be present here, representing, of course, your partner university here in the Philippines, from the coldest city in the Philippines. It's from St. Louis University, Baguio City. I understand that, of course, I was introduced as a Dean of Student Affairs. And of course, I also understand that I was also introduced as a university registrar. But I'd like to tell you that foremost, before holding all these positions in the university, I have been a teacher myself. And when I was starting as a teacher and of course an instructor, of course, in the college level, professional development has been a love-hate. Well, I have had a love-hate relationship with professional development. Well, I'll start with the hate so that, of course, I'll continue to talk about how I started to love it after this one. Well, sorry for the term, no, but anyway, it's I know it's an expression, the love-hate relationship. For me, before, professional development was a big question for me because, of course, I, as a starting professor and I'm a starting instructor in the college level, I had always been surprised why I had to go for further studies and all. And yet my thinking was like, I already finished my bachelor's degree, my in-service training and all. Why do I need to go for that? Well, added to that will be, of course, the pressure, the challenge, and the financial aspect that goes with it. Because we know very well that joining, professional development courses today, especially CPDs and all, are costly for us teachers. And knowing very well, of course, in our case in the Philippines, that somehow the teacher's salary is not actually that much compared to the other professions. But nevertheless, no, as I had to, of course, comply with the requirements and all, because just like any country, we also have what we call a professional regulation commission that ensures that you have to finish at least by the minimum 15 CPD units before you can be given your license. Or maybe after 3 years, you can be allowed to renew your license. That has been a burden for me. But over the years that I have been complying with that, that's when I started to love, of course, no, the training that comes after my college education, which is now aptly called the teacher professional development. Since then, the hate relationship was gone because I myself had appreciated everything that came with every training that I went to. Indeed, we know very well that somehow CPD points and earning them can be challenging, but that, of course, the outcome of that is I become more confident, I become better, and hopefully I can be able to teach my students also to become better and so come out with better outcomes every year. And so, therefore, since then, this professional development thing for me has never been a hate relationship, but I have learned to love them and embrace it because, of course, I know somehow that I have become better. Well, my honest forecast is that I became even better equipped because I know that, of course, somehow I learned from these professional experiences. All this and all the motivation and all the inspiration I got from here, I bring it to me. I share as I share to you, okay, my topic on teacher professional development, which is, of course, my sharing today. You know, Chris Husbands, in his column Expert Opinion from IOE, UCL's Faculty of Education and Society, mentioned that if we want to continue to develop as teachers, we have to also pursue the kind of thinking that teaching matters. And that, of course, whenever we get into this one, from my management side, they know very well that it's very important to recruit and train those who can develop as excellent teachers. But we need to continuously improve the quality of teaching across schools. That means every teacher in every classroom, in every school, getting better at teaching. So this involves focusing on what drives really good teaching. That means we need committed teachers and high quality instruction, which itself would depend on a rigorous subject knowledge among teachers and the knowledge of effective pedagogy, both driven by imagination. And so therefore, Chris Husbands came with the formula for quality teaching. And so the formula on the slides right now, I hope it won't scare you, because of course, some are actually allergic to formulas. But this is a thing that would actually allow us to think about how can schools right now, and maybe for us as educators, how can we be able to maintain quality in our teaching? So therefore, Chris Husbands came up in 2013 of the formula Q is equal to C plus E. And then you have there the values of K, S plus T, and then plus I. That is, okay, from the formula, it says that the quality depends on C, committed teachers, plus effective pedagogy, that's the E there, but that this effective pedagogy is based on knowledge, okay, and subject knowledge, that's the S, and the T is the knowledge of effective teaching supplemented by imagination. So in short, um, school effectiveness research told us, okay, that was not the case is that, of course, um, in order for us to continue to keep improving the outcomes we have for our students, we need to ensure that somehow, okay, we go for quality. Then we understood that school effects were the sum of the classroom effects. That means teachers making the difference. But the key lesson, of course, is that it's teaching, okay, which matters. So every teacher can teach better, and that's, I think, a good equality, no, that we get into. We are all put into an equality, and that's why we have here a discussion about one of the areas by which we can help improve the quality of teaching and as our quality as teachers, no, to be able to, of course, ensure a positive outcomes for our students year in and year out. And that is why one of the most sought after, no, area by which we can come up with quality is to ensure that we go towards professional development and continual training. So what is professional development? But before we go into that one, I just like to share to you, okay, the study, okay, and of course the book, no, which was developed by the Education Sector Group, Sustainable Development and Climate Change Department of the Asian Development Bank. When they talk about the importance of teacher professional development, no, especially in schools, we know very well that somehow the concept of teacher professional development has gradually expanded over the years. Probably the professional development that they were talking about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, will be still the same, but in terms of delivery, in terms of content and all, it has changed in order for us to be able to fit into the needs of our students during the current time. The pandemic has taught us a lot of things. I know it has been a very challenging experience for most of us. But I think the gift of pandemic is it opened our eyes to a lot of realities, and it opened our eyes to a lot of things that we can do despite the challenges. I know very well that somehow the pandemic has closed schools all over the world, but it did not stop learning. And that was actually a happy thing for us because education has to continue if and only if, okay, we are able to serve, of course, the needs of our students. Now, going back to professional development then is named as a very important global agenda right now because, of course, it addresses the need, no, to improve the quality of education. So there is a solid consensus that teachers can positively influence student learning by providing students with adequate time, constructing a proper learning atmosphere, and presenting many meaningful activities. Research has also shown that teachers with good quality education and or, okay, as we speak right now, training experiences through our professional development engagements affirmatively affect, of course, the students' academic performance. This is supported by a lot of studies. The latest of that would be that of Ladd and Sorenson in 2017, Miller and Davidson, no, in 2006, and of course, Papay and Kraft in 2015, to mention some of the few researchers on this one. Now, let's go back. So we need this one. This is very important, especially ensuring the improving the quality of education. And so therefore, this is something that we need to embrace as educators. Okay. So what does it mean, no, when we talk about professional development? Aunt Lee, in actually another blog and another, of course, a journal article, defined professional development as referring to, with emphasis on continuing education and career training. That means after we are all considered a workforce in a school, and with the purpose of this one, I think this is very, very clear, developing new skills, with emphasis on the new skills, staying up to date on current trends, and of course, eventually on a personal level, advancing our career. So, as I was mentioning earlier on, I came from a generation that actually did not want, well, of course, I had no choice, but I had to embrace professional development program. I came from that. But then when I discovered that it is where I get to learn new skills, I learned, I did not only get to know friends and all, but eventually I started to becoming, of course, up to date in my career and current trends. That's when I understood the importance of the professional development. Apart from the many trainings and other available venues by which, as teachers, we can be able to improve the quality of our teaching, and of course, eventually improving the quality of education. Now, Antley went on to define professional development as that activity, but that, of course, it has to be relevant educational or training opportunity, okay, which is close to the work that we do. So anything that's relevant then, okay, to our profession as educators can count as a professional development or a professional development. Now, in the case of the Philippines, when we go for our CPD as a requirement for the renewal of our licenses as licensed professional teachers, we need to be engaged only by accredited professional groups by the Professional Regulation Commission of the Philippines, who are actually awarding CPD points. And of course, you have to be able to earn the 15 units, okay, within the 3 years that will be given to you prior to your renewal, okay, of your license. I guess that is a very good and fair enough experience, because somehow within a period of 3 years, you do not only rely on your personal journey in your career, but that you go to join professionals like the others, no? Like co-professionals who are actually also in their journey in improving, of course, themselves in terms of their career as educators. So more than the develop new skills and being up to date, we become also professionals who are able to advance and push our journey in our career. And I think that is a very good experience. Now, for teachers, a lot of authors also talk about teacher professional development as any type of continuing education, so with emphasis on continuing, because it has to move. It has to be like one after the other. And it's an effort for teachers who are willing to improve their knowledge and skills, which in turn improves student outcomes. This is coming from the Asian Development Bank study in 2021. However, we need to classify, okay, teacher training versus teacher development. Now, teacher training often refers to education in preparation for those who want to become teachers, whereas the TPD, the teacher development, indicates professionals, okay, professional learning by teachers already practicing professionally. So for this reason, of course, the author, okay, tend to favor the word development over training to emphasize, as I've been mentioning earlier on, the continuity, okay, of teacher educator. Okay, teacher educators, and of course the teacher education. Since these terms, okay, are often used interchangeably in teacher education, and teacher learning is not a static but ongoing process, the dichotomy is not useful from the perspective of viewing teachers as continuous learners. Therefore, rather than making a boundary between the two, discussion on teacher education tend to rather be enriched by defining teacher professional development as encompassing both the pre-service and the in-service education. That's why the term continuing development. Okay, but of course, there is a requirement for teacher professional development that can become effective. That is, it has to be ongoing and includes training, practice, and more importantly, feedback. Sometimes we get into this training and we don't get much feedback. And when that happens, we end up owning and, of course, knowing only those that we have actually acquired. But when we are able to get feedback, of course, okay, in the application of what we have learned, that's when we are able to actually assess and gauge whether it has helped us or that it has been very effective. And of course, it's very important that it provides adequate time and follow-up support. So you see, teacher professional development is not just, of course, a personal or a professional journey on that individual level, but that management of like schools or universities must accept the fact that somehow, no, there has to be supporting mechanisms, not only in terms of mentoring and coaching, but more importantly, even of course, in the provision of possible professional development experiences, so that of course teachers can get into this one. All right. So I hope I am still clear and we can move on. Okay. So at least by now, we are now aware about what teacher professional development means. And so that, of course, just like me, we get to be delivered into this embracing, no, of this TPD because it's very important for us, for our career, and for our schools. And more importantly, for our students. Now, why is professional development important is another big question. And again, as I mentioned earlier on, is it worth it? So you see, I told you that I am one teacher who actually transitioned from someone who did not see its worth to eventually someone who saw its worth and right now is fully embracing it because I know that, of course, this is not the only way by which we can be able to advance as teachers and improve our quality, but this is one important avenue by which we can get this. Now, why is it very important? Again, going back to Antley, he emphasized that professional development programs or maybe experiences would allow us to achieve success and meet our goals. Well, basically for us as professionals in general, how to be an effective and efficient professional. And among us teachers, more than becoming efficient and effective is that, of course, we are able to bring in quality as teachers into our schools. Now, it also allows the opportunity to learn and apply new knowledge and skills that can help us in our career as teachers. Yes, we believe in that one. Now, that is why, of course, no, in our case in the Philippines, the Professional Regulation Commission of the Philippines would ensure that there are only accredited professional groups who would provide that, because of course they need to ensure that one, the topics that will be included are really those that will be needed by the educators, and that at the same time, it is aligned, of course, to the challenges of education right now. I'm very sure we had been loaded with a lot of webinars for the past 2 years, okay, since pandemic. And what were these webinars about? These were actually webinars about one, how to transition, no, from the usual face-to-face education to the online or blended delivery of education. Number two, of course, no, challenge for the later generations, no, like Generation X and our baby boomers, who are actually still very much engaged in education, to try, of course, the gifts of technology. I know it has been difficult and challenging, but with our baby steps, we were able to master them and soon found ourselves delivering our lessons effectively online. Okay. This is actually thanks to professional development activities, because without it, can you imagine, no, where we will all be able to get all familiar to these resources, and that at the same time where we can get help. Good thing, okay, with the pandemic, there was technology that was trying to pull us through and allow us to move out, no, from the challenges of that one. And of course, as highlighted also, professional development is just not helpful for you. I think I talked about that earlier on. But then again, I have to emphasize that it is also helpful to the management, no? To our employers, which is of course the Department of Education in our case in the Philippines, and I'm very sure it's the same for everyone. So therefore, a TPD is emphasized also in education policy because the change in education can be made by various factors. But among them, eventually, our role as teachers remain to be the lead, especially in ensuring that somehow, okay, quality would flow in our classrooms. Now, moving on, what are some of the benefits that we have to take note of? Okay, so according to Aunt Lee, there are a good number of things to talk about when it comes to the benefits of being involved in professional development series and continual learning, because it allows somehow multiple benefits to every professionals. But then again, before this benefits will come in and really be in use, we have to be ensuring that, of course, we are actively engaging ourselves in these opportunities, because of course, without us engaging into it, we cannot be able to realize, of course, the promised benefits of professional development. When I was in college, there was this author who mentioned that learning is self-propelled. I'd like to believe, no, that this theory on learning still is very relevant when it comes to professional development, because always the biggest factor is the teacher, the professional, the educator. Without our motivation, without our commitment, then the promised benefits would not be realized. Okay. Now, what are those, no, that we can benefit, no, from professional development? This is according to Aunt Lee. One, okay, it expands our knowledge base. Okay, so both professional development and continuing professional education can expose everyone, no, including every educator, experience or not, no, to new ideas, and then it allows us to solidify our knowledge and definitely increase our expertise in the field. We have seen that, no, in the many seminars that we have been into, and we are, of course, definitely aware that somehow, okay, these new ideas would have not come to our system, okay, without us, no, getting into these professional development experiences. It's from trainings, it's from meeting and collaborating with fellow educators that we are able to gain new knowledge, not just from definitely the speaker, but more importantly, the whole experience of that one. And I'd like to believe that somehow beyond the resources, speakers, and all, the chance to collaborate and be able to, of course, maintain this collaboration all throughout also helps. And this is only possible when we become engaged in professional development series. Now, secondly, it also boosts confidence and credibility. So once we feel and once we know that we have learned and we have grown and that we're starting to become, of course, effective, we are able to concretize everything that we learned in our classrooms. That's when a new, no, energy comes in. I understand that teaching can sometimes be challenging, demotivating for some and all. But when we are able to sense this one and we get to be delivered, no, from this normality to a new normal, okay, which right now we become more informed, more knowledge, more learned, then eventually it improves our confidence as professionals. Okay. Now, thirdly, and I hope you're still okay, professional development increases earning potential and hireability. Well, this is the financial aspect of it, no, that comes with, okay, being able to improve your credentials and all. I understand that, of course, both all of these PDs that we have been into or CPDs that we have been into does not just get into a certificate and, of course, is listed under our CV. But that once they're listed there, they're a testament, no, to our knowledge or increased knowledge and, of course, updated skill set as teachers. So these professional credentials, certifications, and designations, okay, will provide us our journey towards our professional value. So we know very well that when we are with right skill sets and that allows us to seek out advantage, no, for upskilling opportunities and becomes bankable in the future. I'd like to believe that, of course, somehow these are being checked. And so therefore, we have to ensure that we get into this if we want to go up the rank. As what you are seeing right now, no? On the picture, we have there a stair that you go up the ladder. So technically, that's a symbol of us going up. And how can we be able to do that? Of course, by being actively committed and engaged in effective, efficient, and related professional development experiences. Fourth, of course, it provides networking opportunities. Although I think I already mentioned that earlier on, the collaboration and then the forging of this professional relationships with other educators had also become a very good vehicle by which we can now learn, no, from each other. We can benchmark from each other. And this is a promised benefit from being able to join, of course, professional development opportunities. Okay. So therefore, when we join later on, no, as we now transition to the new normal, we join workshops, conferences, and other networking events, then that allows us to branch out and meet other people within our professions. And then later on, that would be a big help for us, especially in our career opportunities. Well, I'm not really talking here about transferring from one school to the other, but that can be possible. Although what I'm trying to emphasize here is that at the same time, no, more than that friendship that gets to be started is a professional community that gets to be built where we come to openly share our experiences, our best practices, and so therefore allow, okay, everyone to learn from what we do best. And I think that's a very good promise for this one. Now, fifth, professional development keeps us, of course, no, current, no, in industry on industry trends. We know very well that professional providers of professional education and CPDs are also into this wanting to become relevant by ensuring that they deliver and that they offer those that are needed by us today, the trends right now, and of course, definitely those that will help us, no, improve our skills, considering our challenges today. And we have had like a lot of those during the pandemic. Right now, we can tell to the pandemic na we are stronger than you, we are ready, and we are keeping learning flowing, despite, of course, all of the restrictions that we have been into. Okay? And then lastly, according to Antli, professional development can open the door, okay, for future career changes. Now, I understand that some of us may not really be staying for so long in our profession. But of course, there are those who are really committed and would stay long. And these professional developments will not go into waste. We know very well that somehow these skills that we get to acquire through the professional development trainings that we get into could be critical, especially in opening new doors for us, either in our field or, as promised, as we transition to a new industry or a new profession. Okay? So I hope, no, that we get to understand right now what the benefits are. And so therefore, renew, no, our commitment, especially in embracing these kinds of professional experiences as it has positive effects on our career. Okay. Now, for teachers, again, apart from what was mentioned, just be mentioning about this one, the TPD, okay, as mentioned earlier on, allows us to develop new knowledge and skills, okay, and at the same time, also, no, it's a support, especially for new teachers, as they now transition, from a teacher training program to now getting into the classrooms. The continuous training would help, especially also at the veteran teachers, to adapt to changes. So on both cohorts of educators and campus, all because we want to accommodate changes in our local, national, and even international standards, which is the trend today. Since we live in a global community, it's very important that our competencies and our skill sets may not only be those responding to the national and local standards, but even more so for international standards. Now, what is also a good thing, no, in the field of education, teacher professional development, okay, nurture what we call a culture of learning. Now, we have to realize this. Since we are the ones leading learning and ensuring that we facilitate well learning, okay, especially in our classrooms, it's also very important that we stay, no, especially, and develop this culture of learning. Because, of course, somehow it's the way by which we get to be improving. And when the students see that we are also learning, that's very important and useful for us, then our believability becomes higher for our students. So once this gets to be in the system, okay, teachers would now start to feel that students would respect them. And of course, when teachers get to see ways to progress in their careers, it becomes now also very important for the teaching profession, for themselves, and more importantly, for the students that they serve. However, what is really that which would matter will be an intense early support also from management for this continuous training and professional development. Because somehow, this is the school system that we are in is not just propelled or maybe pushed by just one teacher, but we come together as a community of professional teachers and educators and professionals, and together with management, come up with policies, even help each other in coming up with very good and important policies, so that we have to ensure that somehow, okay, the flow of professional development will come in the system. Now, what are the possible options, no, that we can get into? Okay. Now, in general, this is, I mean, the following are actually very important uh, activities that we can look into or look for so that we are able to improve, no, in our system. Again, this is from Ant Lee, and of course, I'll try to talk about later on how we can do it, no, in our profession as educators. So number one is basically, I think this is common, that we are able to attend a professional conference, especially among educators, because this is where this is a venue and avenue by which learning flows, and at the same time, some updates and upskilling of our set of skills can actually come in. And then number two, which of course is sometimes that which we miss, is to participate actively in workshops. I understand, just like anybody else, I'm also human and also a professional. But sometimes, no, when it comes to workshops, I feel that I am already okay. I don't need that and all. But when as I started attending actively in workshops, that's where I realized that somehow it's not enough for me to be joining seminars, to be listening to the speakers, to be getting their notes. But what is important is I get into to this workshop, because these workshops are actually developed to further, okay, inculcate and to further deepen, okay, the learning experience in a professional conference. Because sometimes a workshop can be a standalone, and that is good, or it is actually given side by side with a professional conference. And I think we are all familiar with that, right? Okay, there. And somehow another third challenge is to complete our continuing education, or CPE, continuing professional education. Now, in the Philippines, in our case, the CPD, or the continuing professional development points, as I mentioned earlier on, would be very important for us in renewing our license. There's actually even a law that covers that. Okay, there is a group of a board, no, who would take care of the profession and who would dictate, of course, the pace of the profession, but that they always make sure that it is within the bounds of the law. Currently, it's 15 CPD units. There was a time when this became 45, and of course, this is very challenging. Can you imagine, like in the span of 3 years, you need to get 45 CPD points? But then again, of course, it depends on the type of the professional development option that you get into. But I'm lucky that the past years had been very nice for me, and had been joining, no? Especially right now, joining free webinars such as this is easy. You don't need to book a flight, don't need to book a hotel and somehow register. You can even have it for free. And this is good, no? And the certificate that you get after for completing this one would be a testament to this experience. However, of course, the challenge there is how you're able to apply and concretize the things that you have learned from that one. Okay, there. Another one is to possibly take advantage of micro-learning. So micro-learning, as defined by Ant Lee, okay, is an effective learning method, especially useful for busy professionals like you and me. Um, it is also known as bite-sized learning. Okay, micro-learning consists of brief learning units that give brief and focused bursts of contents. No, so allowing to professionals who are very busy to fit short learning sessions into their busy schedules. So there are those. No, so you can actually also look into that one. I think no our technology has allowed us to open the doors of information and possible sources of these micro learning experiences, especially for professionals. Let's grab the opportunity because an exposure to that, 1 to 10 minutes, despite the quick engagement, can be a very, very rich source of information for everyone, especially for us as educators. Okay. Now, the fourth one is to shadow a colleague. Now, if the opportunity would be there, it may be useful to shadow a colleague or superior whose type of job or skills you're actually interested in. So take someone to mentor you. But again, it's very important that you become a willing mentee, and then, of course, an engaged and committed, dedicated mentor is available for you for this to work. Now, shadowing another professional can be a positive learning experience that can offer a lot of clarity about your interest in that career. Should you be really wanting to take a career on, like, let's say, college education, or maybe basic education teaching, or maybe some subject areas which are very, very inviting for you. Okay, there. In the Philippines, we have turned out to become good cooks and good, okay, like gardeners, over the time that we have been at home. And somehow we learned this from a professional who had been doing this. So we had to learn, okay, the ins and outs of it so that we become effective in this one. I'd like to believe that, of course, being able to shadow one and being able to be shadowed by a colleague, especially an expert in the field, would be a very, very lasting, you know, well, the education that we get from it will be lasting, and that it becomes a very joyful experience, professionally and, of course, personally. And then lastly, it may look like simple, no? And sometimes we tend to brush this off. But this is very important. And I also had to agree to this, no, with the author. I really like it when he said that one way of an option for professional development is being able to read a book that can help us in our field. I think by talking about book, these are not only like physical books, but again, I'd like to emphasize that technology allows us a a lot of resources, multimedia resources, and even research journals. And I think right now it's nice that whenever we give a talk, whenever we deliver a rebuttal, or probably, of course, write a paper, it's always good, no, that we try to beef up, no, our claims, our statements by proven facts, which are coming from journals. And these are things that we can read from reading, okay, especially in our field. There are a lot of books out there, ebooks, or maybe even physical books, especially, of course, in our field, in education. Then if, we need to also ask probably our mentor in the shadowing experience, what are some recommended readings for us to really get into the meat of eventually, the needs, the things that we need for our profession. All right. So these are very important options that we can get into. And I'm very, very sure a lot of you have been into a lot of this. And it's nice that we get to tell ourselves today now, okay, so I guess these are also very important and that it had been helping you. So therefore, take on it. Okay, there. Now, what then are some of the challenges that we have to bear, okay, as professionals in order for us to ensure that we continue to become better and continue the quality, okay, that we are actually in. Now, let us remember that in our profession, our track will be definitely following this simple career path for educators. This was, of course, no, I got this, and when I was reading and preparing for my sharing today, I got this from Dr. Gina Gonong, the director of the research study for teacher quality, in her topic on addressing teacher professional development issues and eventually in terms of supporting teacher quality. And we owe I owe the slide actually from Dr. Gina Gonong. If you look into the slide now, you see here that we start from recruitment and hiring. Okay, that's normally management side. However, if we look into the next stages that would come from one, okay, like of course we start as beginners, and then eventually after so many years we get into stage two, become proficient, then we become highly proficient and become distinguished as educators. Definitely these are some stages that we get into, and part of the reason by which we are able to get into this one, apart from serious professional education, like getting into your master's degree and eventually your PhD, would be getting into relevant, no, professional education experiences. Definitely, the rewards will be great. Okay, and we have mentioned about that one of the rewards of getting into professional education series is that we are able to not only improve our career and push our career, okay, and keep advancing, but that we become better until we become distinguished. And so therefore, I guess my fellow educators, if this is the career path, no, that we get into, then we have to seriously look into what relevant professional education experiences we need to get into. Okay? Now, in the study of World Bank, still very much connected to the work of Gina Gonong, there are some things that they had talked about with regard to, of course, the issues on teacher professional development. And allow me to mention some of them. Some actually got discouraged because somehow the professional development opportunity failed to meet, no, their levels of quality. And that's actually very sad. Number two, okay, that study of World Bank in 2014, systems at the school level to support teachers and identify their professional developments are not working well. And so therefore management can actually look into that in order to support, no, the professional development of every educator in the school. And more importantly, I guess, the issue on budget, whatever it is, no, there's actually supposed to be at least somehow a good budget that will have to be reserved for the professional development of teachers. Well, government should look into this in terms of creating policies for that. And then the leaders of education should actually also be serious about this, because if we want quality of teaching and we want quality educators, then we'll have to boost them up with such a support. Okay. So therefore, in response to the challenges that I have presented, Darling and Hammond in 2017 came up with some new dimensions, no, of professional development that we have to be looking into as teachers and as management and leaders. What are these? No? So for our teacher professional development to be effective right now, in consideration of the challenges of the times and of the needs, no, of the schools today coming out from the pandemic, we'll have to ensure, okay, that the teacher professional development program is one, it has to be content focused. So that is very important, especially as we speak about, of course, the big factor of pedagogy in quality education. Secondly, we need to incorporate active learning by utilizing adult learning theories. So these are part of the things that we have to put at the background whenever we design professional development trainings, okay, or exercises, or maybe seminars. Because if we fail to realize this one, then how can we even propel learning, especially among our educators? Third, supports the TPD should support collaboration, especially in job embedded context, especially of course in our profession as educators. And fourth, it must be able to use, okay, models and modeling of effective practice. Now, I'm very happy that in majority of professional seminars right now, best practices are actually being shared to the other schools and other professionals. And this is a very good practice. We have even a term for that, no? A better term for that will be benchmarking. So benchmarking allows us to get into what others are doing and then see whether how we can be able to practice them also, or maybe tweak them so that they become effective and fit into technically our current situation. There. Now, moving on, another type of an effective TPD is that it should provide coaching and expert support. So TPD does not end in the closing remarks, but TPD should continue with coaching and helping each other, especially in providing the support. Now, I guess all the more this is a good time for us to shadow each other. When we are in collaboration with other professionals, this becomes easy. And so therefore, a well-built community of professionals would be very, very helpful, especially when it comes to provide the provision of coaching and expert support after the CPD, or as it goes with ongoing CPD, or maybe professional development training experiences. And that, of course, another one will be an effective TPD should offer opportunity for feedback and reflection. So when we go back to our classrooms and then eventually concretize what we have learned, we have to complete the cycle of looking into whether it is effective, try to go for assessment, and what are other things that we need to do, and what are the other more important ingredients, the other important ingredients that we'll have to be looking forward to so that we can be able to complete the cycle of that. And of course, again, as a continuing professional development, an effective TPD is supposed to be that of sustained duration. Our efforts, since it's ongoing, since continuous, it has to be also, the duration should also be sustained. It's so sad that there are actually professional groups who would offer, they're actually fly by night. They would offer one, earn money, etc., and stop. That's why it's always good for us to look into legit, or maybe, of course, those that are accredited providers of CPD, so that, of course, our continuous learning should also flow, okay, as they come up with programs which are relevant for us. All right. Now, as teachers, these are also things that we have to look into in terms of where we should also be developing. Okay, so it's very important that we go towards improving our field competencies, especially, of course, the things that we do, okay, as teachers, and eventually the field that we are actually in. Okay. Secondly, a challenge right now is to also harness professional development that would lead us and that would develop our research competencies as teachers, especially in our higher education level. The ability to do research is a very important factor in terms of the latest development in education, especially in the use of technology in lessons that would allow us to develop ourselves and become effective and efficient teachers. Okay, the third competency that we have to look into and where we can focus our training would be on curriculum competencies. So it's very important that we look into the role of teachers in the development of curriculum and its implementation. So these are two important phases in developing curriculum competencies. Okay, number 4, I know this is surprising, but as professionals and educators, we have to also be able to harness our emotional competencies. So this is the ability to deal positively with the emotional needs of the students. So it complements a positive learning environment, and then eventually it will foster learning. Now, we do not only go there as teachers, lead them into education, but as their teachers, we have to also try to check where are they, what are their emotional needs, so that together with education, we can journey with them as they grow mature and eventually become emotionally mature as students and would be professionals in the future. Okay. And then the next one is that we have to also try to develop our competencies in terms of life learning competencies. So what do we mean by this? So when we talk about lifelong learning competencies, this is one of the most important competencies to develop oneself and be a lifelong learner. And of course, when we are able to reach and realize this, we become instant role models to our students, which will inspire them also to become lifelong learners. Okay, the love for education gets to be cultivated, and that eventually this grows the seeds of the love for learning that will help them advance also as our students and professionals, no? Of course, in the future. Okay. Are you still okay? Now, another competency is the sociocultural competency. Now, the sociocultural competency deals with the awareness of sociocultural environment of learners, okay, and teachers, democracy and human rights issues, local and national values, and team and collaborative work with others. So, a teacher's sociocultural competency uh, becomes an advocate for a humanistic approach and the practice of the social theories. And of course, apart from those, I think these are very quite familiar for everybody. Communication competencies, okay, there. Effective inter and interpersonal communication skills are vital among us as professionals. ICT competencies, considering now the technology is very much embedded in education. And then lastly, environmental competency. So knowledge and skills regarding the environment and how we are able to manage ecological resources. So future-oriented teaching competencies are often emphasized also in certain areas such as the digital competence. So society is putting pressure on schools to prepare students for deepening digital era and have the necessary competencies, but teachers are still very much trying to prove that, of course, they are ready to practice such competencies. And so, therefore, a challenge for us there is to be able to integrate digital technologies in education and help students use the internet responsibly, especially right now, critically, and creatively to complement their social interactions and lifelong opportunities. Today, as we all prepare, okay, to go back to our schools, and some of you might have already gone back to the schools, especially for those in countries where they are not much affected by the restrictions. Another challenge comes in with TPD. TPD programs right now, apart from, of course, the challenges, the new challenges of like building competencies and, of course, ensuring that we give only effective TPDs, is to ensure that we are able to equip and support teachers to recover and accelerate learning, which is now very important. And I guess as very good educators, especially in Malaysia and of course the neighboring countries, we are doing well. Asia, Southeast Asia is not lagging behind, but we are at par with our other educators and of course other schools in Asia. So McKinsey in 2007 said that there are three things that matter most in top school systems. One is to get the right people to become teachers. Then eventually, as we have emphasized, okay, for the past minutes, developing them into effective instructors. And then eventually ensuring that the system is able to deliver the best possible instruction to every child. And how best can we do this? We go back to the formula. It is very important that we are able to ensure quality in education. That means, okay, that of course we are able to ensure that we become committed and that we are engaged and that with our imaginations together, we can help propel education, not only for our students, but more importantly, as we advance as educators. What is the key for doing that is for us educators to realize that the key towards quality is to keep educating yourselves or ourselves. My dear friends, I have started, okay, with, of course, the non-advocacy for professional development, but I was actually very young then as a teacher, inexperienced, and the only thing I know was to get into a classroom, get to teach, and leave the classroom. But when I realized that I play a very important role as an educator, there I started, of course, the lab for professional development preparations because it is here where I get to enrich myself, and of course, I start to become better as a professional. And so by that, I hope that with the things that I have discussed, I'm able to leave with you, an inspiration, an insight, and a motivation to keep, and harnessing, of course, okay, our professional development through professional development experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof. Andrews, for the detailed and clearly captured session. That was very, I really liked the formula especially. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, as a quick reminder, please remember to submit your attendance and feel free to use either the link provided in the comment section or the QR code that has appeared on the screen now. Their purpose is for the generation of your e-certificate to this international webinar. Okay, now please allow me to introduce our second esteemed panelist. Please meet Honorable Dr. Matthias Yumarnamto. He is from the English Education Department, Faculty of Teacher Education, Universitas Katolik Widya Mandala, Surabaya, Indonesia. Dr. Matthias has published over 30 plus articles in various journals since 2002. And he has a PhD from Indiana University, Bloomington, USA, on Indonesian English language teachers' professional growth and changing identity, and autoethnography and narrative inquiry. This is truly related to our topic today on the importance of professional development for educators. So, Dr. Matthias, how are you today?
Great. Thanks, Dr. Maja. Is
So
my
thank you for,
voice?
yes, thank
Can
you.
you hear
Yes,
me
we
well?
can hear you clearly. And thank you for agreeing to be here with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Maja. It is
I
my
believe,
honor to be here.
yes, thank you so much. I believe the audience are ready and eager to listen to your session. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dr. Matthias.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Matra. It is my honor to be here. So thanks for the Polytechnic of Metro Tasek and Polytechnic of Sultan Idris Shah. They have a very interesting webinar today. So this is our opportunity for all of us to engage actually with the professional development that we are talking about. Thanks, Dr. Andrew McCallum, who has explained everything about professional development in detail, about the nature of professional development, about many different types of professional development that we as educator and as teachers can do to improve ourselves, and later on in turns can improve our students. And that's what's everything about teaching, right? So we want to improve our students, make them successful in their life, in their academic, and in their life in the future. So once again, thanks, Dr. Andrew McCallum from St. Louis University. Yeah. I'm Matthias Yumarnamto from Widya Mandala, Surabaya Catholic University, Indonesia. I'm from Surabaya, which is actually the hottest city in Java. Yeah. But let's get back to the topics today, the importance of teacher professional development. And I'm glad Dr. Andrew McCallum have introduced us with the nature of professional development. I want to continue what we have discussed with Dr. McCallum. Now I'm focusing on the role of teacher identity and agency in professional development. When I'm entering to the profession as a teacher, when I was at that time as a new graduate, college graduate, I'm struggling actually with teaching and with educating the student. The first thing that I realized at that time that I need to improve myself in terms of the subject matter. I need to prepare myself what to teach to the students. So at the beginning, I was so focused on what I'm going to teach. So I didn't realize that actually I teach students, different types of students. The realizations occur later, actually. So probably in the first year, 2 years of teaching, my focus was on the contents of what I'm going to teach, not the students. Yeah. And I then realized that students are very important because actually, when we are teaching the students, is the center of our teaching. We want the students to learn, basically. So as a teacher, we want to bring about learning in the students, and focusing only on covering the contents and the materials may serve the purpose, for example, to prepare the students for exam. But then I realized that's not all about teaching. So from my experience at the beginning as a teacher and educator, then I come to realize the importance of teacher identity and agency that I'm going to discuss today. Yeah. Let's see. So let's see to the history of teacher professionalisms. Yeah. So this is, I took this actually from Hargreaves 2000s. So the first stage of teacher professionalisms, actually the pre-professional age. Yeah. So to be aware about this history basically is taken from the history of Western educations, not Asian education, for example. But we will see later on that this history is more or less similar to what we experience in the Asian context, in Indonesia, in Malaysia, or in the Philippines, probably. But take a look at this. So the pre-professional age. So education at that time, yeah, teacher at that time, yeah, is everybody's job. Basically, if you have knowledge and experience, then you can teach. Yeah. In a Western educations, especially in the United States, at that time, school are based on the church. So members of the church who are considered by the community as having the patience, having the knowledge to teach the students, they are appointed as teachers. So that's why during this period, yeah, during this stage of professionalisms, sometimes we hear the terms, those who can't teach. Actually, these terms is a kind of condescending views about teacher. First, this saying, those who can teach, yeah, those who can teach, yeah, coined by Bernard Shaw, yeah, a novelist, an author, because he saw at that time in the society there actually many teachers work as teacher because they cannot do any other things. So what they can do is teaching. So this is a look down at teaching professionals at that time. But indeed, yeah, education at that time is just requirements of the society so that students can learn to read and some basic mathematics. So people say that everybody can do that. So this is what is called the pre-professional age. And I think in the context of Asian countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, we also have seen this, yeah, that teachers, those who became teachers are those who are willing to become teachers with some experiences and knowledge in their field. Okay. And then came to the age of the autonomous professional. Yeah, Hargreaves, saying that this autonomous professional is that professional teachers are those who have college degree, have proper educations, proper training to become teachers. So as teachers, they are autonomous and they have the responsibility to develop their own expertise in teaching the contents or the subject matter or the disciplines they are responsible to teach. So this responsible on individuals, the emphasis is on individuals. We call this autonomous professional. Yeah, individual teachers should be responsible to develop their own professions. And then later on we realize that individual professionalisms may not be enough. So we came at the age of collegial professional. Collegial professional, then we realize that teaching is not only individual efforts, it is collegial effort, it is community efforts. So then we have what is called learning communities or communities of learning or learnings of practice. So practitioners, teachers get together, then organize themselves to create what is called professional organizations. So in Indonesia, for example, then we have teacher professional organizations. The teacher professional organizations, actually the aim is to empower teacher to go together, of course with the help with different agencies, including the governments, to create better teachers, to improve teachers, and later on to improve education in general. Finally, the last stage is the age of professional or postmodern. Yeah, this age of professional or postmodern era bring about the realizations that a teacher profession is not a kind of closed community. It is open to many different perspectives about teaching professions. It also includes many different activities. Activities, what I mean by activities here is social activities, social movements. So teachers as professions cannot be separated from the society. So teachers as professions influence and at the same time are influenced by the societies. So the realizations about the natures of teaching profession here then bring us to this postmodern diverse perspective about becoming teachers. We don't see much here in Asian countries, especially in Indonesia, and probably Malaysia and the Philippines, because we still, in what I see from my engagement with teachers and also the perspective of the government regarding teaching professions, we are still in the third stage. I don't say that the first, second, third, and fourth stage of professionalism is a kind of progress, but it is a kind of overlapping ideas that shapes our professional work in teaching. Let's go on here. So Now, let's see the positions of teachers and educators in our society. So, as a teachers and educators, when we take a look at the autonomous individuals' awareness about our professions as teachers, we have what is called in personal goals. We want as individual to be successful, to be happy. So the Western idea about the pursuing of happiness is here. Yeah. In our context in Asian countries, we don't really take the important things on personal goals in many historical events. So Asian countries, including Indonesians probably and Malaysia, we see that the community is more important than individuals. Yeah, so that's why in this context, teacher here is in the middle. Yeah, we have personal goal, institutional goals, communities needs, and then the parents that demand teachers to be better and so on. Yeah. So the socio-cultural context influence us as teachers. And professional development in many cases that I have experienced is a kind of objectifying teachers. Yeah. In the case of in Indonesia, for example, we see in the past many teachers' professional development, although the goal is for the betterment of the teachers, but in many cases it is objectifying the teachers. What does it mean by objectifying the teachers? The teacher professional development providers, in this case the government, see teachers as problematics, as the source of problems in education. Or if it is not the source of problems, it is one of the components that they can influence to bring about changes in education. And in many cases, it is true. Yeah. Because educational system is a kind of complex systems. And one easy thing to do by the government when education realize that education is a kind of failed, then blaming teachers. So teachers are in this middle of the education system where many people see teachers as problematic. So that's why teachers need to be upgraded. Teachers need to be retrained and so on. Okay, so this perspective, you may not agree with this one, but in many cases it can be true. Yeah, where actually the professional development providers, the governments actually just want to spend their money to educate teachers, and they want to see that by re-educating teachers, retraining teachers, all education problem will be solved. That's not the case, because education is a kind of complex systems that need to be sourced not only by teachers but also by all the stakeholders. Yeah. So back here to teacher professional development then. Yeah. So what we see previously, we can see the positions of teachers. Yeah. Teachers can be one factors that we can access, that the government can influence, that the training providers can influence to change educations. Yeah. So Sulman, actually, this is old book, old articles related to teachers' knowledge. So it is good to point out one of the participants here asking about what should we focus on our professional development. So before we can answer that questions, we need to know, that teachers, we as teachers, with the complex relations to the society, to the governments, to ourselves, actually develop or grow from what is called teacher knowledge. So teacher knowledge is the knowledge that we have so that we become effective teachers in the classroom. Sulman, in this case, has identified that the teacher knowledge came from scholarships in the discipline. So scholarship in the disciplines means that we study the subject matter of the disciplines. If we are mathematics teachers, then we know mathematics. We master mathematics. If we are English teachers, then we master English. We can use the language proficiently. And if we are physics teacher, we know physics. So that's why this is the scholarship in the disciplines. We learn this, of course, from formal training in our college. For example, in teacher education schools or faculty, we have been trained in our discipline. Second areas as the sources of teacher knowledge is the pedagogy. So pedagogy is a kind of broad areas basically, because it is also related to our discipline, the content knowledge, but it also related to other different factors. What are they? It is related to the students. So the understanding about our student is important, and it comprises the pedagogy that we will do. It is also related to our understanding about teaching, about our professions. So pedagogy is not immune to the influence of different factors. Even the socio-cultural factors may influence our pedagogy, because the pedagogy, once again, is influenced by our understanding about teaching, our understanding about students and learning, and our understanding about the curriculums and the materials we want to deliver to the students. But more than that, actually, it is not only understanding, but it is related to our beliefs. So our beliefs about students, our beliefs about teaching, our beliefs about curriculums will influence our pedagogy. So it is very important as teachers and educators that we realize what our philosophical, our education philosophy. So probably you never ask yourself about our education philosophy. So our education philosophy is based on our understandings and our beliefs about the discipline and the pedagogy. Okay. So it is worthy to note, if you want to develop our own professional development, we want to grow our professionalism, then we ask ourselves what we believe about teaching, what we believe about our students. For example, to illustrate, so if we believe that teaching is transferring knowledge, then what we do in the classroom will be transferring knowledge. You provide the contents to the students. So, and then you teach the contents to the students. and then you try to check whether the students master the content you want the students to master. How to do that one? You administer tests. Yeah. So testing will test the students. Oh, they understand certain mathematical formula. They can apply this certain mathematical formula to real life, for example, by solving real life problems. So you do that one because you believe that you are transferring knowledge. Yeah. So as we realize that being teachers is a complex, our realizations that teaching is transferring knowledge may not be enough. We need to know that transferring knowledge assume that we will a kind of delivering one knowledge to the other, one knowledge after the other. But it turns out that sometimes it is not transferring knowledge which is more important. Some educators think that actually the most important things in educating students is that transferring or making what is called the characters in students. Knowledge right now can be accessed from many different sources. Even without teachers, we can access knowledge, but character education is more important. So if you believe that character education is more important in students, then you don't only transfer knowledge, but in the classroom, you also build up discipline. You show modeling about a good citizens, for example. You are modeling about a good multicultural teachers. You are modeling yourself as an example of open-minded teachers, for example. So in this case, you will avoid lecturing students and brainwashing the students with one truth that you may believe in your life. Okay, so that's why this is very important. So the sources of teacher knowledge. And actually, number 4, when we are talking about exercise of wisdom in practice, this is the sources of our teacher knowledge, that our experience is very important. Yeah. What kind of experience which is important for our teaching are reflected experience that we can turn into knowledge. Experience is useless, but experience, after we reflect upon it and then we change ourselves based on our experience, then it will be useful knowledge. Then in terms of Sulman, he said it is the exercise of wisdom in practice. So becoming teachers, once again, I agree with Professor Andrew McCarmer that it is a lifelong learning, lifelong endeavor. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so from Sulman, let's see. This is the content knowledge, and then the pedagogy, and then this is our trajectory as teachers. This is the professional development that we may have. We may have trainings, but it is also important that we need to engage with the community of practice. As I have explained before, that we as a teacher is situated at school, we are situated in certain socio-cultural contexts. In Indonesia, in Surabaya, I'm situated in Surabaya in the context of Indonesia, and you, if you live in Malaysia or in the Philippines, you are bound in that context, socio-cultural context. And it is very important to engage with the community of practices. Yeah. With community of practice, with the professional community. Why is it important? Because we cannot live alone. To develop our professions, to grow in our professions, we need other people. We need colleagues. Yeah. I like the idea of foreshadowing other teachers. I like the idea of being mentee of other teachers that proposed, yeah, that suggested by by Professor Andrew McNamara. So again, this is the social dimensions of teachers. We cannot develop ourselves alone. That's the idea. We need to work together with other people, especially with our colleagues, yeah, with our professional community. And having this kind of conferences, yeah, now we have this kind of webinar online, but we can also engage in the community online. Online in Facebook, for example, we have teachers community. There we can engage with the community to develop our profession, to grow our professionalisms. Why is it important? Because there we can have knowledge from other teachers, other educators that deal with similar problems. Yeah, I really learned a lot from this kind of community. Yeah. So I joined, for example, on Facebook, Teachers Voices. There in Teachers Voices group, you can hear many different problems. The problem they face. Yeah. Sometimes they are very critical to the governments, very critical to many different agencies that try to objectify them. So you can see that this teacher professional communities that we can access, why we can grow in it, because we are engaging with them. We learn from each other. Yeah. We learn from each other. Yeah. And in doing there, then we can navigate our career. Yeah, career is a kind of formal ladder that you want to take, yeah, to take up. So from a green teacher, yeah, from beginner uh, to accomplished teachers that you want to do, yeah, in the ladder. Yeah. That's the formal ladder that will compensate you with financial success in some way. Yeah, it may be different from the Philippines or from the Malaysians context. Yeah, or from Indonesian context. How much financial gain you can get if you can go up to the professional ladder. So this is the way to navigate your career. Okay. Yeah, if we take a look at the professional development, yeah, again, why professional development? So this is from Freeman 2019, related to professional development. So you can see this dimension. You have what is called socio-professional identity here. This is the way you want to be known as teachers. You want to be known that you are good teacher, competent teachers. So in this case, you want to go to these directions, to go to the upward directions that people, students, your colleagues will know you as professional teachers, as competent teachers here. You are good at the substance. You are good in the disciplines. This is what you want to do. How to do that one? This is the area of development. So actually, this is the area of formal training. You got training, college training, and later on you also probably joining with many different trainings and conferences. Yeah, so this is what is called the line of knowledge. Yeah. You have knowledge, skills, yeah, underlying your professions, but then you want to be known as professional. This is your identity. You have the identity when you have all the knowledge and skills needed to be professional. But that's not enough. You need to also participate in social participation. So that's why the social participation is here. Yeah. Social participation, in one way, it is your engagement with the professional community. It is engagement with your socio-cultural context. You want to bring about changes in your students, but you may also want to bring about changes. You want to raise, for example, the idea of democracy, the idea of justice, and so on here. Yeah. So this is from Freeman's. Yeah. So that's why what I suggest at the beginning with identity and agency of teachers are here. As teachers, we want to be known as professional. That's our identity. We want to participate to the social change, not only in your students, but you may also want to change the community, the society. Yeah. So this is what I can conceptualize the importance of identity and agency, yeah, of teachers. So doing professional development is not only collecting certificates, yeah, it's not only for the sole purpose, the sole goal of going up the career ladders, but it is in terms of Maslow's needs in psychology, our actualizing ourselves. This is the level of actualizations when we can claim our identity and we can assert our agency. Take a look, we start with content knowledge or teacher knowledge. Basically here, if we see the big box, yeah, content knowledge is our discipline, and then pedagogical knowledge, understanding learners, understanding teaching, even understanding technology, and also understanding the professions. This is our pedagogy, and then we develop what is called our educational philosophy. By having all of these things, we can claim our professional identity as teacher and educator, and then we can assert our agency. Our agency, we are not the object anymore. Now we are the subject. We take the responsibility of our own professional development. So it is not the other agencies, it is not the government that will shape my professional identity, but it is us, ourselves, as teacher educators. We want to claim, to seize this opportunity. So in terms of motivations, we want these intrinsic motivations. Yeah. On my research, I found out that teachers, the accomplished teachers, basically not because they follow many different trainings, collecting many different certificates of trainings, but because they realize their profession as a calling, their professions as a kind of intrinsic motivations, their duty to educate students. So in my research, I found out some teachers say teaching is God's calling. They put these professions in wider context as part of their religious identity. So this is our calling, to educate students, to make them better. And this what make them satisfied with the professions. Usually, before a seminar or workshop, I ask teachers, what do you feel right now as a teacher? Some teachers feel tired. Some teachers are very enthusiastic about their profession. Some teachers feel so they don't know what to do next. They're forced to attend these trainings or that kind of workshops so that they can collect certificates for their next units, for their certifications and so on. So this is different views about training and professional development. What we need to do as teachers, take it as ours, not as theirs. So this is very important perspective if we want to grow in the professions. Tired teachers usually occurred because they felt that their profession is not satisfying. So accomplished teachers feel that their profession is satisfying. They are satisfied with their professions. Why? They can actualizing themselves in the profession, and that's what we want to do. Yeah, what we want to do, and we will take it as our responsibility. So thank you so much once again as a concluding remarks. Yeah. So it is not enough attending professional development, collecting certificates for professional development. It will be more important that we take the responsibility to ourselves to grow in the profession, to feel the satisfactions of the professions. So that's our responsibility. How to do that one? We need to reflect to ourselves what we believe, about our student, what we believe about our professions, and what we believe about ourselves as a teacher. Thank you so much. And the times I will return it to Dr. Mahmood. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Matthias, for the invaluable knowledge shared. I believe I've learned about this career navigation, yeah, and actualizing ourselves to that would lead to our self-satisfaction. Okay, thank you. Now we will proceed to our promised question and answer session. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your questions in the chatting section. Okay, we will try to choose the questions. Please allow us some time for the selection. I'm waiting for the committee to sort the question for me. We can see the first one has appeared. It's from Lechumanan Jayabalan for Dr. Matthias. Okay, as the rapid development of information and technology and IR 4.0, what are things teachers need to equip in order to be relevant, not only in their field, but actively involved in nation development?
So this is very interesting question and challenging question, and actually the questions is all for all of us. But let me clarify this. So technology, we cannot avoid that technology develop very fast. That teachers need to adapt and to open to the technology we can use. Uh, and even if some people say that they are threatened by technology, they can be substituted by technology. No, yeah. So technology is still tools in teacher, in teaching, and in education in general. So what we should realize once again, technology as a tools for us, either to tools for delivery, yeah, or tools for many different purposes, yeah, for many different purposes. So don't worry about to be threatened by technology. We as a teacher, what is more important is we as teacher, as the characters, because what is important in education in general basically is not, once again, is not only transmitting the knowledge, but characters. Yeah, characters. Probably it is a kind of cliche to tell characters is more important than knowledge. Uh, yeah, we cannot compare both, but we can say it is complementary. But it is once again, it is more important what we see, the perspective that we have. Yeah. It is more important to educate students to be open-minded toward changes. It is more important to us as a teachers to be open-minded to many different perspectives and to many different progress and development. And when we talk about technology, how can make it? What are things teachers need to equip in order to be relevant, not only in their field, but actively involved in nation development? Yeah. What we need to do, we need to be open to the development of technology. We need to shut down our mind for the new advancements of technology. Yeah. But we need to be aware how to use it, yeah, for the purpose of education, for the purpose of learning. Okay, I think that's my short answer. But once again, this is the questions that we need to ask to all of us, and we need to reflect. How can we do as teachers? Okay. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr. Matthias. Yeah, maybe this could help us with the micro learning. If we have very little time and more time, then we can attend workshops, right, on these 4.0 technologies. Thank you for that answer, Dr. Matthias. And now we are looking for the next question. This is from Ninik Sri Rahayu. She addressed her question to Prof. Andrew. Thank you for the very interesting topic. You raised the issue of the importance of professional development. As you explained, professional development is an ongoing process obtained through training, practice, and feedback. The problem for many educators at universities in Indonesia is that the administrative burden outside of academic activities such as teaching, research, and publication is relatively high. At a certain point, it prevents them from. Okay, my question has been cut short. It prevents them from.
Going for professional development.
Sorry, from growing.
Going to professional development.
From growing to professional development or something like that.
Or probably from going to the professional development activities.
Yes, from,
yes. Yeah. So this is for me, right?
Yes, Doctor.
Yes. Okay. I have to also use the terms used by Dr. Mateus earlier on that this is also a very challenging question, both
Yes.
literally and figuratively. Well, literally because definitely it's a quizzical question. And I have to say that this is being felt right now, especially among higher education institution educators. Uh, More than their more than the task and the challenging task of everyday teaching are other additional tasks attached to that, like doing research, publication, even because right now I think it's a very common thing that if you are in an HEI, if you do not publish, you perish. And of course, these are additional challenges that we'll have to do. Well, I myself am also an educator. And so, therefore, apart from my work as an educator, I also work as the registrar of the university. And these are all things that I juggle on my mind. And I'm writing right now my dissertation. And this is probably something that I can relate to. Well, for me, I think the challenge is I think Dr. Mateus earlier mentioned that somehow TPD is not just about going into seminars, getting certificates, but also basically it's the teacher's commitment and character and attitude that will come in. Now, having realized that these TPDs are actually very important for us, then I guess we'll have to again include in our time frame, okay, our schedule, okay, the ability and of course the possibility of getting into TPD uh, uh, venues and avenues. I know it's very challenging, but again, as I suggested earlier on, and as mentioned by Dr. Majida earlier today, prior to me answering the question, the micro learning sessions can actually come in as one way by which we can get into professional development experiences and trainings. So short courses and short trainings, especially for professionals who are actually very busy. And another one is if we can be able to develop a teacher learning community, okay, for all, like for example, the professors who are actually busy in universities, that can also be a good alternative TPD to enhance teacher professionalism. So the teacher learning community can be a group of teachers who learn, explore, and practice collaboratively. So with emphasis to the word collaboratively to elevate teacher professionalism and promote student learning. So it shares values and norms, focuses on learning of teachers and students, and characterized by cooperation among community members. So an innovation here is very important. With the technology right now that we have, I think this can be done, especially that we don't have to be physically around. We have just to use digital technology for us to be able to come up with this teacher learning community where we can come together and then get into a schedule that will be that which will suit us, professionals and professors who are actually very busy. But again, the challenge here is real. uh, it is also real that we have been overburdened with a lot of responsibilities. But as Dr. Mateus mentioned earlier on, our professional growth is also a responsibility. So I guess we can either go into this micro learning. For me, I think that's important. And another one is let's try to look around. How can we be able to build a teacher learning community where we come together, agree on schedules, agree on uh, time schedules and all and time frames so that still we can get on into this important teacher professional development training. Again, it's easier said than done, but with us looking into our responsibilities, I guess this is something that we can still add up now to the burden that we have already. But we can survive, I'm very sure.
Yes, inshallah, I think we can survive, yeah. But this idea of the online teacher learning community is really good. Um, the collaboration with all this internet and online enabled, thanks to COVID, something good could come out from it. Now, we'll have more questions, I believe. Thank you, Dr. Prof. Andrews. So we'll have another one for Dr. Mateus. This is from Navia Perumal. How do we encourage teachers to embrace professional development? Yes, they know they're important, but how do we encourage them?
Okay, so this is our problem basically, how to encourage teachers, especially not just formality, Yeah. So because right now it is a kind of formality, they got certificates, although actually they just turn on their computer or their mobile phone in joining webinar or seminars. So this is not a kind of the real professional development that we hope. So how we can encourage them? This is also very difficult question for all of us, by the way. But this is the clue. So the system itself. So I like that in many different countries, like in the Philippines, in Malaysia, and in Indonesia, we have a system that forces teachers to take this route to join certain professional development for their career development. But this is not enough. Yeah, this is not enough. What we need to do basically, I agree with Professor Andrew that said school need to identify what kind of professional development needed for their teachers and educators. So at this level, then the professional development offered or indicated by the school in their system, school leadership in this way, can really help the teachers. So what is important is that the training, the workshops, the upgrading are really of teachers' needs. Sometimes teachers join professional development because they have to, because they need the certificate, but not because they want to improve themselves. So probably at school level or at individual level, even teachers need to reflect about themselves, to identify what kind of improvement they need. So this is the stage of cycle of being professional, reflections. If the reflections, if teachers don't skip these reflections, they can identify what they need to develop, whether they need to develop their technological skills and knowledge, or whether they need to develop their teaching skills. The need comes from their realizations about themselves and the trajectory they want to go in the professional ladder in terms of that. Yeah. So to be accomplished teachers, then it is not only a collections, a huge pile of certificates, but it is indeed this is part of their identity. So once again, if when I talk about identity and agency at school or as a community of practice, we need to maintain and to improve reflections so that these individual efforts become the community efforts to grow together as teachers and educators. So once again, how to encourage teachers to join professional development? There is no other way if they realize what they need to improve. If they don't feel they need to improve, then whatever we do, it will be useless. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Matthias. We have to be the educators themselves has to be responsible of their own trajectory or reflection. I like this quote from Terminator: "No fate but what we make. Only we can change our fate, right?" Because we wanted to. Thank you. Now, I believe we have another question for Dr. Professor Andrew or Dr. Matthias. Okay, this one is for Professor Andrew. What is the appropriate steps in sustaining the duration for enhancing TPD? What is the appropriate steps in sustaining the duration for enhancing TPD?
All right. The questions are becoming quizzical. But nevertheless, I'd like to share probably my point of view with regard to this. Well, basically, we have to start from there. No, I think the answer to the question of Dr. Mateus earlier on is a very important ingredient in ensuring, okay, that educators, just like all of us, will really embrace our professional development. So therefore, if we are able to do that, then I guess no, with regard to the sustenance of the duration of enhancing TPD, it would not be really challenging and of course difficult for those who are organizing them if we see a good number of our educators really starting sensing the responsibility and at the same time the importance of us the CPD, then definitely that could be a very good factor for this one. But on the other hand, it's also very important for policymakers to realize this as part of the responsibility. So apart from definitely providing flexible funding for continuing education components for learning opportunities, that means they also have to sustain engagement in collaboration, mentoring, and coaching, as well as institutes, workshops, and seminars. I guess all these venues can be able to help out no, in sustaining the duration for enhancing of the TPD. And on the other hand, basically right now I think there are a lot of challenges being faced by educators, so they have to be also incorporated especially in the planning of the TPDs. And more importantly, the end factor for all of this is for our students, so that they can because of the things that we do, no, especially in the enhancement of our profession, they are um, they are the ones at the end of our service. And when we are able to do that, embrace our professional responsibilities, then I guess we are towards improving not only our careers, but more importantly, in providing uh, being able to provide the quality education, okay, for our students. However, at the end of the day, there's always an individual factor that we have to look into. As Dr. Mateo said, even with the numerous TPD venues and available, if we do not say yes or maybe embrace our commitment and realize probably the importance of this, then eventually it won't work. I don't know if I got the question, but that's my take on the question.
Thank you, Professor Andrew. Yes, we all have our own responsibilities. We are like jigsaw puzzles that should embrace our professional responsibilities, not just among the educators. It's true for all levels. We really hope, we truly hope that all the attendees have gained a lot of useful information from this webinar. So, thank you again for the questions you posed. For now, we would like to take this opportunity to invite Professor Andrew and Dr. Mateus to our group photo session with Technologist Khairul Anwar bin Ishak, the Director of PMTG, and Technologist Zulkarnain bin Shahadan, the Director of PCs, Madam Munyamal Pushpa, the Head of International Unit PMTG, who is also the Webinars Program Director, and the Webinars Working Committee from PMTG and PCs here in StreamYard. Smile. Are we ready, Madam? Oh, we're waiting for the directors to join us. Okay, unfortunately, the director from PCS is not available today. We have our director, Mr. Khairul Anwar, there from PMTG. You're driving, sir. Okay, ready? Uh, Mr. Khairul Anwar, can you take off your mask for a few seconds? Can you unveil your mask for a few seconds? He's coming. He's coming. I guess he's coming into the building. So he couldn't hear me? Yes, he's just outside the building. You can have the skyline tour. Oh, okay. Oh, he's it. All right, lovely. Now we can see your smile. Okay. All right.
2, 1, and smile. Okay, another one. Okay, 3, 2, 1, and smile. Okay, freestyle, please. Show some love. Okay, in 3, 2, 1, and ready. Okay.
Thank you, Kuasnawi. Um, Please allow me to convey our special gratitude to our distinguished panelists, respectable Dr. Andrew S. McCalma of St. Louis University, Philippines, and respectable Dr. Matthias Yumarnamto from Widya Mandala Surabaya Catholic University, Indonesia, for their outstanding presentation, discussion, and feedback on the importance of professional development for educators today. May this cooperation with St. Louis University and Universitas Catholic Widya Mandala be lasting. I hope this is not the first and the last. Ladies and gentlemen, before we part, firstly, please remember to submit your attendance via either the link provided in the comment section or the QR code that has been on the screen all this while. They are for your e-certificates. Secondly, please complete the feedback using the link in your comment section. We do have a feedback form in the link. A feedback form in the form of a link in your comment section. We would really truly appreciate your input. Once again, thank you all for your full attention and for your precious time throughout this international webinar today. Stay safe for the Muslims. Have a blessed Ramadan. Try not to overeat when breaking fast. Have a nice day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So thank you so much, Prof. Andrew and Dr. Matthews. It was very, very informative. I learned a lot actually today, and I'm sure that all the participants, they also enjoyed and they gain a lot of knowledge for today. And I really, my sincere, for a heartful thank to both of you. Especially we know that you both of you were not actually paid, but you were willing to impart your knowledge, which is something really great as educators. So we truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. And of course, we will be giving certificates as speakers to both of you. I'll get back to both of you later. Ariza, do you have anything to say, Ariza?
Morning, everyone. Thank you, Prof and Dr. and Puan Puspa. So as regards to the cert, it will be available within the 2 working days. So that will be next week, inshallah.
No problem. It was an honor and privilege to have been invited here, and I hope that I was able to deliver, of course, according to the purpose.
Yes,
Thank you
very
also,
well.
Dr. Matthews, for your
Yeah.
expertise. I also learned from you a lot today.
Yeah, thank you too, Dr. Puspa, Arisa, and Dr. Andre. I also learned a lot from you. Thank you.
Thank you so
Right.
much.
So we hope after this we will continue to work together with both the universities.
Yes.
Okay, that's really great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you
We'll be
so
honored by
much.
that. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
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 Bye. Nice meeting you all.